Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel a good few times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years. They are still a relatively new addition to the Swedish beer scene, but in the time they've been around, they really have built a very good reputation for themselves. It's most definitely fair to say that they're best known for their different kinds of New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs. And the beer we're going to have a look at today is a style that I know these guys can do very, very well. It's also one of their latest releases through Systembolaget here in Sweden, and I have heard very good things about it. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review. And as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to Örebro, which is out to the west of Stockholm. And we're going to have a look at another beer from Apex Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called Failure Drill. It comes in at 6.5% ABV, and this is another New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So this beer was released as part of the Lokalt Osmoskorvik assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden for November of 2022. It was available a little bit earlier than that through Glassbanken.sa in Denmark, of course. But yeah, this is supposed to be quite nice. It's got a slightly different malt base to some of the other ones that we've had from Apex in the past. And this is one of the reasons why I keep going back to Apex, is because they always show you, something a little bit different within this particular style bracket. In recent times though, these guys have been doing some really interesting lagers as well, so we'll need to keep an eye and see how that progresses over the next wee while. We'd love to see them do an old school West Coast IPA, so fingers crossed that's something they've got earmarked for the future. But like I say, they've really made their name when it comes to the New England hazies. But this one was released along with the Meridian Double IPA, which we reviewed a few videos back. But yeah, this one was pretty nice, or this one is supposed to be pretty nice, I've heard. So yeah, let's crack on then and see what we have. As always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Apex Brewing Company before, and we will no doubt add more to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. Go to the search bar, put in your hometown, state, country, county, prefecture, whatever it is, and if I've reviewed beers from your area, they should pop up. And remember too that you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Swedish playlist along with many other things, and that's being added to very, very regularly. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then and tell you a little bit about Apex Brewing Company once again. So Apex Brewing Company, as I've mentioned to you before, were originally based in Nora, which is to the north of Örebro, but the company was founded back in 2017 by Daniel Gatchitz and Niklas Lundgren. So both of these guys are musicians. Niklas played in the band 59 Times the Pain, whereas Daniel played in The Voice of a Generation. And these two guys are responsible for the brewing operations, but there are a few others involved in the company as well. This is Leif Karlsson, Ola Eriksson and Roger Helm, and they're dealing with things like, marketing, social media, finance, all of this kind of idea. But they started off with a very small kind of 500 litre brew kit, 6 fermentation tanks as well, and they were just selling their beers in the local area before they got them into Systembolaget. If I remember correctly, back in about 2017, 2018 or so, I tried the first beer that they released, which was called Single Hop IPA, just a single hop Citra New England IPA, and it was very, very nice. But over the course of 2018, they produced around 35,000 litres of beer, and there was 25 different varieties, all of which were different New England IPAs. And the following year, in 2019, they expanded a little bit, and they brewed 120,000 litres. Since then, they've been working to kind of build up their sales and build up the capacity of the brewery, and they've been very successful in that because their New England IPAs have gone down very well in a lot of different countries. In the summer of 2021, though, they announced that they would move to a new premises in the Baytorp district of Örebro in the autumn. They have now moved there and they've got things up and running. But at this point, They upgraded their 500 litre brew kit to a new 2,000 litre system. They added several new tanks, and of course, this has allowed them to export their beer a lot further afield. But as of November 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 125 different kinds of beer, and as I said to you, they are known mainly for their New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs. But they have been doing a few sort of Keller lagers in recent times. They've got the Keller Pilsner, the Keller Märzen, and I believe they're just about to release the Keller Dunkel through Systembolaget as well. So we'll need to see about reviewing that on the channel next month, because I do love a good Dunkel beer actually. But yeah, that is all I can really tell you about Apex Brewing Company for the moment. If you are interested in New England hazy IPAs, this is one of the Swedish breweries that you really need to check out at the moment. These guys, Fermenterarna and Duck Pond, are doing some of the best New England IPAs you'll find in Sweden just now. And of course, you've got the guys who've been doing this for a good while, still doing very good things as well. Stigbergets, OO Brewing, Omnipojo, of course, as well. Lots of good New England IPAs these days. Akia Brewhus from near Gothenburg are another one to keep an eye on as well. Kungsbacka. So yeah, that's all I can tell you about Apex Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, again, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on the usual social media, Facebook and Instagram, and of course you can check out the Untappd page to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that they've done. Or you can check out some of my older videos as well. They go back to about 2018. If I remember correctly. But yeah, let's get on and have a little look at this beer itself. So like I mentioned earlier, this one is a 6.5% New England IPA. What I found out about this beer is that it's hopped with Nelson Sauvin and Idaho 7. We know both of these hops quite well. Nelson Sauvin from New Zealand, about 16% alpha acid. It gives you that big white grapey gooseberry type flavour, whereas Idaho 7's from the US, about 14% alpha acid if memory serves me correctly, and it gives you these lovely sort of apricot-y, it gives you a little bit of passion fruit of course, but you know, lovely apricot-y, papaya, very soft tropical fruit notes. But this one has a malt base of extra pale, malted and unmalted notes, and also a little bit of raw wheat as well, which should be quite interesting. So yeah, Apex are always playing about with their malt bases and just seeing what they can do within this New England style bracket. So yeah, always quite interesting. But yeah, that is everything we need to say about the beer. I'll just let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one before we open up. As you can see, it's quite typical from what compared to what we've seen from Apex before. You can see you've got a little bit of a kind of Yeti hand or Yeti paw or something like that there. It's kind of cool. A bear paw, maybe? Not quite sure. But this is one of their slogans, music, people and beer. It says on the side here, I swear to dig a hole, a deep hole and nothing but a super deep hole, so help me God. And then they've got the cross upside down, so obviously a little bit satanic. Love it. But yeah, there you can see Failure Drill IPA, as we said earlier, 6.5% ABV. This beer cost me, I believe, 50 Swedish kroner, so that is €5, £4.50 sterling, somewhere in the region of like $5.50, $6 American, just so those of you watching abroad have a bit of a price reference. But let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us, so let's do this. That looks pretty damn good, I have to say, and it smells nice as well, but we'll have a closer look at that later on. So there you go. I think we've poured about 2/3 of the beer, maybe 75% into the glass, and as you would expect from a New England IPA, it looks nice. So before the head disappears, we can say that this beer is poured with about a 3/4, 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say very slightly cream coloured head. That's not a perfect white head, I would say, but that doesn't matter overly much, the colour of it. But you can see nice kind of small to medium sized bubbles there in the bottom and a few bigger bubbles further up, just to let you have a wee look at that. But colour wise, this one is quite a nice, bright, but quite rich yellow. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of that head there, but overall, it does look pretty damn nice actually. In terms of the level of haze on this one, for a 6.5%er, it's actually pretty impressive. So remember, the level of haze in these beers depends on the oat content, the wheat content, and to a degree the yeast. strain that you use as well. That can vary from brewery to brewery and beer to beer, but when it comes to the colour in these beers, it depends mainly on the type of malts that you use. Of course, you can boil the wort a little bit longer and that will make the colour a wee bit darker. You can do barrel aging and put adjuncts in there, that will change the colour of the beer as well. But when it comes to IPAs, that's not a very, very common thing to do actually. But yeah, as I said, in terms of what you would expect from a New England hazy, the appearance of this one is not surprising in terms of the fruit juice analogy that I always like to use. This one does remind me a little bit more of a kind of mango juice rather than anything else. But yeah, certainly looks a nice beer, as you would expect from a New England hazy IPA. Let's take a wee look at the aroma of this one then and see what we have. Yeah. This does smell pretty damn good, I have to say. So, yeah, cannot fault this beer at all in its aroma. First impression of it is it's actually quite floral, and it's got a good little bit of pungency from. It's got a good little bit of pungency from the from the hops as well. There's quite a bit of tropical, pungent, and citrusy, zesty character to this one, which I wasn't quite expecting from it. But then the malt base is really smooth, actually, a little bit of graininess to it. Then you've got that nice bright floral green component as well. So this one should be really quite interesting actually. We'll need to see how this goes. But let's break the aroma down and just describe it that wee bit more. And as I've always said, for me there are 6 different elements to think about when it comes to a New England IPA. So we should think about the kind of farmhousey yeasty character and the rye-leaning and grainy side of things. Those are a bit more prominent when it comes to American brewed New England IPAs, but you've also got wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and of course the kind of sweeter elements in there as well. So these are all things that we need to think about. But aroma wise, this one is really quite nice in that sense. The first impression I have of this is that it's a bit more kind of wheaty and bitey leaning. It's big and floral as well, and as I say, you've got a bit of zestiness coming out of the beer. But yeah, let's break down that aroma and describe it a wee bit more kind of in depth. So the backbone of the beer, you've got a little bit of that kind of fresh white bready bread crust in this one. So yeah, lovely fresh white bread crust. On top of that, you've got a little bit of a more fresh white bread crust, a little bit of a more kind of Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing there. Yeah, it goes together really very well. It's this one's actually one of the more kind of bready New England IPAs that I remember from Apex. So yeah, the bread crust, the cracker, then yeah, you've got this quite dense, fluffy white bread note out of this one. And it's almost kind of slightly sweet in a way too. So yeah, fluffy white bread. You've got a little bit of you've got a little bit of kind of wheaty bitiness to this one as well. But I think the wheat in this beer is actually a little bit more grainy in a sense. You've got almost, the more that I smell of this beer, I start to get a more kind of wholemeal, brown bready sort of thing out of it, mixing in with the white bread. So yeah, bread crust, cracker, white bread, then a little bit of wholemeal bread, and at the back of the nose there is just that little bit of wheaty bitiness. So that is quite interesting as well with this one, how that in particular pieces together. Yeah. This really is quite an interesting beer, I have to say that for it. But yeah, the way it goes together is really quite nice in a sense. So, on top of that though, you do start to get some of the oatiness out of the beer. And what I would say is, I don't think this beer is at its optimum freshness. This is one of the things that I think Apex need to sort out with Systembolaget, is, you know, getting their beers out there fresh. And that's, I guess, maybe Apex need to be on top of Systembolaget to do it, but at the same time Systembolaget need to relax the rules, because you can smell with this one, it's not at its optimum freshness. As I always say with these beers, the oaks are usually a very good indicator of how fresh your New England IPA is. The creamier they smell, the fresher it is. The drier and sort of more porridgey they smell, the older it is. You are getting quite a wee bit of that porridgey character out of this beer, and it's still going to be good, but as I say, it's not at its freshest. So yeah, there's a little bit of there's definitely a little bit of that kind of yeah, you've got a little bit of that oaty creaminess in there. There's a little bit of a kind of wheat. There's a little bit of the dryness from the oats in there as well. But you've also got this big kind of porridgey thing. On top of all of that, there's a good little bit of there is a good little bit of a kind of Werther's original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing, and then you've got that wee kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity character as well. So yeah, there is a little bit of that going on in this one. I do wonder the aroma that I get out of this, if I wasn't smelling it blind, I would guess there was a little touch of acidulated malt in this one because it just has that little bit of yeah, it just has that little bit of kind of sharpness to it. It's just got a little bit of that kind of sharpness in the malt base as well, which makes me think acidulated malt. It reminds me of the old beers that we used to have from Magic Rock. So that's quite interesting. But I think we've covered the malt base enough on this one. We should go on to the hoppy side of things. So for me, the green component in this beer, there's a little touch of earthiness there, but this one really leans toward a more floral and bright, yeah, a more bright kind of floral sort of thing. So absolutely getting some of that in this beer. But at the front of the nose, there's a good little bit of a kind of grassy, zesty character in this one. So yeah, good little bit of that in this beer, and I think the more that you smell of this beer, the green component really becomes just that little bit more pungent, and it's kind of surprising from these two hops actually. But you know, I know Nelson Sauvin is capable of giving you that big green note, so maybe they've used a little bit of early edition hop in this one, but the green component is very bright actually. We'll come to that when we taste the beer though. But on the fruity side of things, it is kind of what you would expect from these two hops. Although in fairness, you do get a good little bit of that more pungent passion fruit, which Idaho 7 can sometimes show, but there's lots of juicy kind of ripe mango in there. Yeah, so pungent passion fruit, juicy ripe mango. You've got the kind of apricot and papaya notes take a little bit of a back seat, but then you're also getting quite a little bit of that big oily you're getting quite a little bit of that big oily gooseberry character that you expect of Nelson Sauvin, but I actually find it quite zesty in this case. It's almost got a little bit of a limey note to it as well, this beer, which is really quite interesting. It could be that Nelson Sauvin has been added in the whirlpool stage in this, and that's maybe why the floral notes are quite so big, and then you've got that little bit of lime in there. So yeah, that is definitely quite interesting for sure. But I think that's everything we need to say about the aroma of this beer. It gets more and more floral and zesty the more that you smell of it. But I think it's about time that we try this then. So let's put the rest of it into the glass. There we are. So this one is the Failure Drill 6.5% New England IPA from Apex Brewing Company in Örebro to the west of Stockholm. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skull, cheers. You can see this beer's gone even more hazy with that pour. But let's look at this. Oh yeah. That, I have to say, is pretty damn nice. Very, very smooth New England IPA. And I have to say, this is one of the ones that diverges from its aroma quite a wee bit. This beer has nowhere near as much. It has nowhere near as much floral character and kind of zestiness and bitiness as I thought it was going to be. This beer is really quite different from its. This beer really is quite different from its aroma in a lot of ways, but yeah, it works. You can feel this one big, thick, sort of creamy and smooth malt base, and nowhere near as floral. Yeah, I like that. I think that's quite interesting. Yeah. So, where do we start with this one then? Middle of the palate, as we always do. We'll start there. So, the middle of your palate with this beer, you can feel that nice kind of fresh white bready bread crust there. That, of course, is the backbone of many of these beers. Toward the front of that middle third of the palate, you'll get a little slight woody undertone to this one, and that comes out a wee bit more the further you go into the aftertaste. Above that, or maybe has a little touch of a Jacob's cream cracker type note to this beer. So you've got a little bit of that, but then the more that I drink of this, the more that I drink of it, the kind of denser the beer gets. Yeah, definitely. The more and more that I drink of this beer, the denser the whole thing becomes. So that is really interesting with this one for sure. So, on top of that, kind of crackery note, you get all the bread out of this one. There's maybe a very thin, slight layer of a kind of wholemeal, brown bready, bread crusty sort of thing. But then above that, you start to get the lovely kind of thicker. You do get that lovely kind of thick, fresh white bread in there. So you've got that more airy, fresh white bread, and then it does get denser and denser. The more that you drink of this beer, but on top of that, you can feel the wheaty layer. And the wheat, of course, they did put raw wheat in this. It was unmalted wheat. You can feel that it really smoothens out the whole beer, actually. And this beer doesn't have a lot of wheaty bitiness to it in the flavour, but we'll come to that later. But the malt base in this one feels very, very dense, and this could well be one of the most dense, or densest isn't a word. It was one of the most dense New England IPAs that I've come across from Apex before. So yeah, it's really interesting in that particular regard. But on top of that wheaty layer, you do start to get the kind of oaty creaminess coming out of the beer. So you can feel the nice oaty creamy character sitting there. And it's a lot creamier in the flavour than it is in the aroma, I have to say that. So this beer is fresher than I thought it was based on the aroma. But above the wheaty layer, you can feel down the middle line of your tongue, you get that big kind of oaty creaminess there, and it spreads out toward the side of the palate. You do get a little touch of dryness out of the oats as you reach the extremities of that middle third of your palate, but otherwise, I think it's pretty solid in what it's doing. So, yeah, there is a little bit of that oaty dryness as you go further out toward the edges of the palate, but then you've got that in the middle of your palate, in the dead centre of your tongue, you've got a little bit of that kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy note to the beer. So yeah, a little bit of straight up caramel in the dead centre of your palate, butterscotch, butter candy there, and then as you move out toward the edges of the palate, you do have a wee touch of a McVitie's digestive biscuit note there. But as I say, in the middle third of the palate alone, this is definitely one of the more dense New England IPAs that I can say that I've come across from Apex Brewing. But very, very nice beer, no doubt in my mind about that. So back third of the palate then, border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you get that little bit of bready build up in there. You can feel it's quite a dense, fresh white bread. The base of the back third of your palate, of course, you start to get a little bit of a drier bread crust coming out of this one. Remember, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back on the palate. Sweeter flavours come out further forward. So yeah, more kind of dry, grainy base there. Then on top of that, you get the cracker, and again, the cracker's quite dry. You've got a bit of wholemeal brown bread in there. You can feel that layer is a little bit taller. Then you get the really dense white bread, and above that, you get a little bit of the wheaty bitiness there. And the wheaty bitiness, in fairness, does linger into the aftertaste a wee bit. But above all of that, you've got some of these more kind of airy, yeasty sort of things coming out of the beer. You've got a bit more of a kind of airy, yeasty, kind of sweet bready layer in there. So you can feel that flavour is definitely taller. And then as you come further forward into the aftertaste, or come further forward in the palate, I should say. The flavours just, they condense down and squash together that little bit more. But the malt base in this one I think is very nice, and certainly one of the most dense single IPAs I can say that I've come across from Apex. And, you know, generally speaking, yeah, one of the most dense single New England IPAs that I've come across. So I really like how this beer goes together, so it gets a big thumbs up from me in that particular regard. Yeah, but this is nice. Quite different, and again, as I say, this is the thing with Apex. They can really show you all the stuff you can play around with within the New England IPA style. They really do. But I would love to try an old school big bitter West Coast Sea Hop IPA from these guys. I really would. But yeah, let's go on to the green component with this beer then. So back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, you get a touch of herbal quality, and then it becomes more and more floral as you come further forward along the sides of your palate there. But round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy for sure, which is quite interesting. So yeah, nice little bit of grassy zestiness in there. But yeah, the green component in this beer for me is actually quite smooth. It's not too pungent. This might be to do with the kind of freshness of the beer. The beer does still feel pretty fresh though, in fairness. But yeah, we also have to think about the hopping here. So remember, 3 types of hopping. Early addition hopping within the first hour of the wort boil, that's going to give you most of your bitterness. Late addition hopping within the last half hour of the wort boil, a little bit of bitterness, but mainly flavour and aroma. And then you've got dry hopping, which comes after the wort boil, and that's all about that is all about your how would you say, it's all about your flavour and aroma at that stage. So New England IPAs tend to rely on the latter two, but they sometimes have a little bit of early addition hopping. West Coast IPAs use all 3 of them, and that's why they tend to be more bitter. This beer, I think, maybe has a very, I think this, just from the way the green component is, it's not overly deep, it's actually more bright in some ways. That makes me think it's mainly late addition and dry hopping in this beer. But anyway, we've covered the green component. I think we can go on to the front third of the palate and just cover the fruity side of the beer. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a little bit of that bready build up in there. You can feel that nice, fresh, white bready character. The base of the front third of your palate, there's a little bit of bread crust in there and some smooth kind of white bready character as well. And on top of that, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So let's take a look at that. And yeah, let's take a look at that and describe that for you. So, in terms, this one's it's actually really kind of interesting. It's actually got a good little bit more zestiness to it, this beer, when I focus on it. But yeah, at the back of that front third of your palate, you do get a nice little bit of kind of passion fruity, more pungent passion fruity character out of the beer. Then as you come further forward, there's a touch of you get a good bit of juicy mango, but the base of that back half of the front third of your palate is more sort of apricot-y and papaya-like. So you can feel that passion fruit, mango, apricot and papaya. Then into the front half of the front third of your palate, you get more of the Nelson Sauvignon. So the Idaho 7 definitely dominates the back half of the front third of your palate. And it's when you go into the front half, you get that big, you get that oily gooseberry, white green grapey note in the base. But as you reach the front tip of your tongue, there really is a little bit more of a kind of like limey character to this one, which is quite interesting. If I was tasting it blind, I would think there was maybe a little bit of Motueka or something in this, or potentially even Equinaut. Not seen Equinaut in beers for quite a wee while, in fairness though. But yeah, this one, if you know the 2 hops in this beer, they're really kind of showing you what they can do. But the Idaho 7 for me is a little bit more pungent than I've seen it in some cases. The Nelson Sauvignon is doing what you always expect it to do. I do wonder if the floral character in this beer is mainly coming from the from the Nelson Sauvignon, but still, overall the whole beer just goes together really nicely. As I say, one of the most dense malt bases I've seen in an Apex single IPA, and yeah, very very smooth beer, I have to say. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the flavour side of things. Let's round off this review with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So for me, this beer is top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied, one of the most dense and thick single New England IPAs that I've had from Apex Brewing, and probably generally speaking as well. But yeah, big kind of smooth, creamy mouthfeel to it overall. In terms of IBUs, standard 30, maybe 25 IBUs. It's really quite smooth, this one. The malt, as we said, a little bit of graininess to it, but big, thick, dense, bready character. A little bit of sweetness, and in fairness, the sweetness does build the more that you drink of the beer as well. And we've got lovely fruitiness to this one. A mix between soft tropical notes and the oily Nelson Sauvin character. You do get a little touch of limey zestiness out of the beer as well into the aftertaste. So the fruity side of this one is quite interesting, but quite a bright and floral green component for me. But overall, really quite an interesting one. This has made me think about the style in a slightly different way than I have before, and this is quite different to what we've had from Apex in the past. But as I say, they're good at playing around within this individual style bracket, of course. So thumbs up to Apex again for another solid New England IPA. We do expect that from them, of course, but as I say, they always show you something a wee bit different with this style every month. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this beer. This one was the Failure Drill, a 6.5% New England IPA from Apex Brewing Company in Örebro to the west of Stockholm here in Sweden. Make sure you try some beers from this brewery if you like your New Englands, because you won't be disappointed with them, I have to say that. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Apex Brewing Company as well, and we will return to these guys at some point in the very near future. But in the meantime, check out my social media, check out their social media, and I will see you soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers, see you in the next review.